And welcome back to LinkedIn Logs, the jobs podcast for the website cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Welcome back in. Here we are. We're at episode 90 of the show. We would have been at 100 probably, but I took a lot of time off at one point, and there is that. Let's see. I'm still waiting to hear back. If you have been following along with my saga, and at least dozens of you have, I'm still waiting to hear back from a possible position. Hopefully I get it, because there's no plan B. There's nothing else. It'll be the last gasp of Chad White. We'll see what happens after that. But you know, I feel fairly confident. I received an email. Let's see. I received an email, I think Thursday or Friday, saying that I am in consideration. I was given a number of how many other people are in the consideration. Let's just say it's less than 3. Oh, God, I hope I get this. God, I hope I get it. I hope I get it. Name the play. Musical. Okay, and that's pretty much it. We just play the waiting game, and hopefully the waiting game comes out in my favor. All right, let's get on with the first story. I did just check the email, and I did the C Plus Comedy email, and I did see something I'm going to read. So if you see a story up there, please note that it is a story that I'm going to read on my own time. This first one comes from, I have to resize some things. Deadline. It's written by Lynette Rice. Tulsa King. 26 crew members, including Sylvester Stallone's stunt double, abruptly replaced on eve of season 4 shoot. I don't know what it is, but Paramount Plus is very gung-ho about this Taylor Sheridan produced show called Tulsa King. It's a show I watch. I wouldn't say I necessarily love it. And there are times where I don't even like it. And I go, why am I here? But I do like Sly, his political beliefs notwithstanding. And that's pretty much it. And the show was interesting in the first season. And then now we're on season 3. And it's very clear. It was very clear in season 2 that something would happen on the show. And it's very clear that Sly said, hey, this would be really cool if this happened. And it just doesn't make sense. And you're supposed to be able to drop your predispositions for TV shows, which I get, I understand. But this show is so fanatical. Fanatical? That's the wrong term. Fantastical is what I meant to say. The show is so fantastical. It doesn't make sense. Fantastical? This show is crazy. I have a writing degree. No big deal. I read books. How many books am I at this year? I have a goal. I have a goal this year to reach a certain number of books. And I'm very close to it. I'm very close to that goal, and I can reach it. I'm in the middle of 2 books right now. One is a book by Quentin Tarantino called Cinema something. I don't know, some bullshit about cinema. And then another one is another SNL book. How many books about SNL have I read this year? 2. How many documentaries about SNL have I seen this year? 5. I've seen every single documentary that's on Peacock about SNL. Most recently, the Jim Downey one. This is what, and I'll get back to this story in a second. This is what I want from SNL. Now that the show is 50 And now that, they are opening up and telling more some stories that, yes, I'm hearing for the 100th time in this Live from New York book story. And then there's other stories that no one talks about from the Live from New York book, probably because it was talked about in that book. There's stories I heard in the Lorne book by Susan Morrison. There's stories in the documentaries that I never heard about. But they have a Jim Downey documentary. That's great. Jim Downey was one of the famed writers of the show, is one of the famed writers of the show. They could do more documentaries about SNL, and I would be there to watch. Just like when the second Simpsons movie comes out, I'll be there to watch. But I would love some more behind the scenes SNL stuff, because they don't do that. I would love a whole documentary about the makeup, like how makeup works. And yeah, they have some stuff on, the YouTube channel, but those are like 3, 5, 10 minute video, or not even 10 minutes, like 3 or 5 minute videos. They could do a whole 30, 40 or 40 minute documentary about makeup. They could do a separate documentary about costumes. And I would watch that. So many people would. They could do one about set design. Anyway, let's move on. Now, we know Taylor Sheridan is leaving Paramount for NBC Universal. Paramount, most recently, just laid off 1,000 people because of this merger and a lot of other things. But his NBC Universal deal does not come into effect until like 2028 for TV, and then for film it's like 2027. It's some numbers like that. Anyway, I'll talk about that in a second. But this is the 4th season of this show is about to shoot. They're currently airing the 3rd season. This is like the 2nd or 3rd story surrounding issues about issues surrounding Tulsa King. Deadline, as Lynette writes, understands that 26 crew members of Tulsa King's 600-member crew were asked not to return for season 4, which is expected to resume production in a week. Most, if not all, are expected to be replaced. Those affected worked in sound, camera operating, stunts, rigging, transportation, the production office, extras, casting, hair, photography, and stunts. They were led to believe they would have a job in the new season after the series was earmarked for a 2-year renewal, when series star and executive producer Sly Stallone closed a new deal in 2024. Last year, it was reported that Stallone called one of the extras ugly and overweight because he was an older gentleman and he was using a cane to get around. And it's just so wild. So wild that could even happen. Instead, they learned within a few weeks of production starting, or at the buzzer, in quotes, as one described, that they no longer had a place on the 101 Studios produced hit drama. Among them includes the Emmy-nominated Freddie Poole, who learned within 2 weeks of his start date that he was out of a job coordinating stunts and working as a stunt double for Stallone. He'd been with Stallone for 14 years. This show, if you don't know, I think is shot in multiple places, including Atlanta, and I think a lot of exteriors are in Oklahoma, and then I wouldn't be surprised if there was some stuff in Los Angeles, but it's mostly here in the Southeast. Poole said, "I feel really bad for the Atlanta film community with just the way things went down." He was told by 101 Studios that he was losing his position for creative reasons, in quotes, but was offered a new role on Tulsa King as a photo double. He declined. No. They've ruined, they took one thing away and they're like, you want this little piece of carrot? No. Poole was nominated for an Emmy in 2023 and 2025 for stunt coordinating on Tulsa King. The stand-in, Chad Gregory, heard in passing that he was not coming back. He was told via a friend that his job, which had previously paid $250 a day, had been posted for $400 a day. I don't understand why. I don't understand why this is the way. Not just the industry works currently, but why this is the way this show is working. Why are these people being put out to pasture for seemingly no reason, especially if you have an Emmy-nominated stunt coordinator, especially if this is the first, like within the past couple of years, this is the first time that these people in this part of the industry, stunt coordinators, are being recognized in awards. One Studios and Paramount declined to comment, but insiders have stressed that crew turnover on productions is, quote, standard practice across the industry from season to season, and everyone who was not asked back were without contracts. Another insider pointed out that budget cuts were not a factor and that everyone is being replaced. This show already has a new old executive producer. Terrence Winter came back and head writer, as executive producer and head writer, while season 3 showrunner Dave Erickson is leaving. Winter was on the first season of the show, but stepped down after that and then rejoined the series as head writer and EP in season 2. So he's the person to blame. He's the person to blame for the quality of the show going downhill. Terrence Winter, if you don't know, was Boardwalk Empire and The Wolf of Wall Street and short-lived HBO series Vinyl. He also obviously was on The Sopranos. That is a very scary thing, to see that this kind of turnover is happening so rapidly. And it shouldn't be something that is just kind of cast asunder, like an idea that, oh, this happens all the time. The difference is when it did happen, people had places to fall back to. Now the photo doubles, they don't make enough money to live. And that technically the photo doubling stuff is a second job. But when you're a stunt coordinator or a production coordinator or a casting person or any one of those other people, this is your job. And yes, while you sometimes work on contracts and sometimes you don't, you still need a fallback after that. What happens when there's no fallback? Everything is gone. And then you're out there scrambling quickly. Okay, continuing off of the Taylor Sheridan thing, this comes from Hollywood Reporter. Did Paramount blow it by losing Taylor Sheridan? This is written by Steven Zychik and James Hibbard. As I mentioned previously, Taylor Sheridan is leaving Paramount for NBC Universal, and that's happening, I am correct, in 2028. And starting next year, he can make movies for NBC Universal. But 2028 is when his TV deal at Paramount will be gone. Taylor Sheridan's shows include not just Tulsa King and Yellowstones, but also the Yellowstones. The Yellowstone spinoff, 1923. There's also one with Rip and Beth coming. There's also another one with Casey, and I think it might be on CBS. I don't entirely remember. There's also Special Ops Lioness, starring Zoe Saldana, star of Avatar. God, I love those Avatar movies. Now, as you read on in Zychek and Hibbard's piece for the Hollywood Reporter, they will argue that it's really not much of a major loss for Paramount, which is a company that is trying to save money, but also trying to expand its horizons. Also, here's the thing: this So we know that Warner Brothers is up for sale, and we know that David Ellison, who's the current owner of Paramount Skydance, wants to buy Warner Brothers. Particularly, he wants to buy the studios and HBO Max. And then he wants to sunset HBO Max and put everything from HBO Max on Paramount Plus. Paramount Plus is one of the buggiest streaming platforms. Ever since CBS All Access, they were the first to get there, and they've never fixed anything. It's been buggy forever. In fact, the only version of the app that works for me consistently is the app on the LG TV, and then I would say like the Xbox app, and I'll include the PlayStation app in that, and then I'll say the phone app, and then I'll say the Google TV app. I don't have an Apple TV, so I can't really measure it against that. But they're all at different levels of quality. Like obviously the Android app and the iOS app, iPad OS app, are way ahead of the TV app for some reason. And the Google TV app just never works completely. I have to stop it, exit, force stop it, get back in, all just to watch an episode of Ghosts. So Zychek said that he rolled his eyes, that this was a major loss, because Sheridan is an expensive player. With the type of deal that he had, they could probably get 2 or 3 young auteurs like him early on at this point. It's going to save Paramount a lot of money, he continues. And then he would also have had brought so many viewers because of all the shows that he's already done. They're going to continue to make these shows even after he's gone. Yeah, they're still going to have to pay him, but they're not going to have to pay him any more of that deal. Hibbert says, but if I were them, I would worry about him focusing on his new home once he gets there. Sheridan is, if you don't know, when he works on a project, he pretty much is on that like Landman. I think he had obviously Landman's a show. He had a very heavy hand, and just like the tone of that show. I think this is why we don't see the 4 Sixes Ranch, that spinoff that was announced like even before the finale of Yellowstone. But how much is he going to care about, say, Dutton Ranch Season 3 and Tulsa King Season 5 if he's busy spinning up new content for NBC? Paramount assuming, quote, we don't need the chef if we got these recipes, might not be right. It's very true. And they go on, they have a conversation, basically including like the Duffer Brothers from Netflix, who just signed over with Paramount. They have a new 4-year film and TV deal. Sheridan shows are always expensive, super duper expensive. Around $10 million per episode. But the Duffer Brothers, Stranger Things, was incredibly expensive per episode, between 50 and 60 million. But you also get 2. And they put out these giant high concept movies that don't play well. The movie that came out with Millie Bobby Brown, oh God, what is that? Millie Bobby Brown. What was that movie? Netflix movie. Electric State. Jesus Christ. I fell asleep during that. I fell asleep the day it came out and I never went back. And then also I want to point this out. This comes from Hibbard and Peter Kiefer over at The Hollywood Reporter. Paramount never made Sheridan an offer to stay. How TV's biggest partnership fell apart. Now, this is about a day after they published that conversation. The studio brass had flown to Texas to court Sheridan on his sprawling ranch shortly after the merger between Skydance Media and Paramount Global was finalized in August. Their objective was clear: make Sheridan feel as if he's in good hands with his new leadership group. They thought the meeting went well. A source who spoke with one of the execs in attendance joked that The Paramount brass, quote, couldn't keep up with him as drinks flowed while Sheridan uncorked bottles. There's an episode towards the end of season 5 of Yellowstone, and this is so fresh in my memory, where Sheridan casts himself in that show as this cowboy rancher who can do no wrong, and he's like super rich and all the women love him. And he's really good at riding steers or whatever the fuck they do. Doing rodeo shit. But they're like I forgot who has to go to his house, but somebody has to go to his house and pick him up or something like that. I don't remember. And he's like playing cards and he's not wearing a shirt, and you can see like he's ripped. He's like, you see this like just like sitting there looking manly, wearing his cowboy hat, drinking and smoking, and he has all these buckle bunnies around him, and it's just I don't understand why he has to paint himself as this Christ-like figure. I think he's a good smart businessman, and I think he makes really great TV shows and movies. Some of them really great, and some of them go on for too long, like Yellowstone. But it's like Hell or High Water is a fantastic movie. But it's just crazy how his ego is gigantic. Also, Sheridan's deal with NBC Universal is worth as much as $1 billion. Wow. And his entire contract, his 5-year contract, truly starts in 2029. Wow. He'll also have the opportunity to make films of, quote, all sizes with NBCU starting next year. If you look back, the South Park deal was huge. The South Park deal, the Paramount thing that they like, that's $1 billion, and South Park is a little bit more inconsistent than I will say. Not in quality. I'm talking about in releasing a TV show than Sheridan. From Sheridan's perspective, the partnership was rocky even before the merger. The writer, producer, director had been frustrated by Paramount's film division which had rejected a feature script of his titled "Capture the Flag." And when Warner Bros. CEO David Zaslav courted Sheridan this year by offering to dust off his action thriller script Fast, F-A-S-T, Sheridan ran into a roadblock when Paramount initially refused to let the rival studio make the film. Paramount wanted a 50-50 split, sources say, and was rebuffed, though it eventually let the film go forward. Once the studio changed hands, Paramount didn't give Sheridan a heads up that it signed Nicole Kidman for a new series that could, in theory, conflict with her shooting schedule for his drama Lioness. Oh, that's right, she is on Lioness. Lioness is a show that is filled with top talent, and yet I don't know one person that watches it, but B, anything about that show. It's been going on for 2 seasons. There's 16 episodes. LaMonica Garrett is on it. He's the Anti-Monitor from Legends of Tomorrow. He's the Monitor and Anti-Monitor. He's done so much in his career, and then I'm like, he's the Monitor and Anti-Monitor. That's probably his biggest role. Let's be truthful. Jill Wagner's in that show. Stephanie Noor. Morgan Freeman? What? Genesis Rodriguez? I should start watching that show. A source familiar with the situation says Paramount had planned to speak with Sheridan regarding the Kidman announcement, but that Sheridan first learned about it through a dinner with the actress before they had the chance. But even that reasoning speaks to the studio not quite prioritizing its relationship with Sheridan. In addition, Sheridan bristled at criticisms of his spending because, again, the shows is just like every single show of his has just ballooned astronomically. And then there was a meeting between Sheridan and a crew of Paramount executives, a bombardment of brass tactic that felt cumbersome for the creative. One insider pushed back on the idea that the executive team effort was Paramount's idea, noting that 101 Studio CEO David Glasser set the guest list, which included too many people from Sheridan's point of view. Either way, somebody else had been courting Sheridan with a more low-key style. NBC Universal's Savvy Entertainment and Studios boss Donna Langley, who had multiple meetings with the hitmaker over the summer and who gradually became the Sheridan Whisperer. Initially, Langley approached Sheridan about a film deal, but the conversation expanded to include television and streaming in August when it became clear he was having serious doubts about re-upping his TV deal with new Paramount. If you recall, Yellowstone, the entirety of the Yellowstone series, with the exception of spinoffs, is currently on Peacock and has been since the first season left Paramount Network and started streaming. It not like it was a streaming only show, a streaming prioritized show. And just like with South Park going to HBO Max, it blew up and that's how people found it. You know, people who aren't in the middle of the country, who's the target audience, who don't watch cable necessarily because that's where, you know, the internet is not as fast, and a lot of rural areas in Yellowstone really gain an audience from people in rural areas without faster internets because they have cable. So they watch Paramount Network and they see Yellowstone and they're like, wow, this is a show for us, and it's great and it's good and it's got the soapy drama and this excellent action and really great acting from Kevin Costner and all these other people. And then when it goes to a place like Peacock, that was at the time cheap and people could see it, well, now you've got audiences coming from all directions. South Park goes to HBO Max and boom, people don't want to go to Paramount Plus to watch these shows because they can't. Anyway, Yellowstone does great numbers on Paramount Plus, even before the final season, which took like a year in between both parts of that season, because season 5 released in 2 parts. People were watching it on Peacock. It was constantly in the top 10 on Peacock. If they had a top 10. But it was constantly always on Peacock. And it's still there now. So I'm sure that really factored in when Langley went to have her conversations with Sheridan. I'm sure that truly factored in to the decision to offer him something. There's some speculation that Paramount was getting out of the Sheridan business while the creator was at his peak. Some quotes here. Perhaps the biggest clue to David Ellison's mindset was one simple fact. While sources disagree on some of the particulars in the story, all agree Paramount never actually made an offer to lock down Sheridan. And now the big bet is, can Paramount Plus, but Paramount Skydance as a company, can they survive without their Ryan Murphy, without their Shonda Rhimes? There are really, truly only like 3 giant TV producers right now. And it's Shonda, Ryan, and Sheridan. Paramount is in a precarious position. And it with all these layoffs coming and CBS News going through this giant change, I don't know what's in the pipe for them that can help push them past the other competition. Now, whether I like it or not, whether you like it or not, whether they like it or not, their competition is Netflix. I think about this. I thought about this weekend as I was trying to find something to watch. I'm sitting on my bike, and I didn't want to watch Blind Spot, and I went to Paramount Plus because last week I didn't watch Survivor and Amazing Race. So I'm sitting on my bike and I'm watching, but prior to that, before I started my class, my 45-minute low impact ride with Hannah Corbin at 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Usually it's a Power Zone ride with Matt Wilpers. But I guess since we're out of the training season for him, marathon season, his Saturday classes are going to be up in the air. Saturday morning classes. He did have a Friday class. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But but prior to that, the 8 o'clock start, it was like 7:50, and I'm getting some early pedals in, or warming up, as people say. And I was scrolling through. I went through each streaming service that I subscribe to, with the exception of Apple TV, which I have not touched in 2 months because there's nothing on there. But when I went to cancel, they offered me $6 for 2 months, and in those 2 months, I did not touch it. I spent $12. They got my money. I think I should just put on Foundation and just let it play all day. Anyway, but at 7:50, when I'm sitting there getting in the warm up, and I was scrolling through the streaming platforms, I couldn't find anything. What I want is something that I can watch, like Blind Spot or Gotham. Put it on. It has a lot of episodes, and I can just kind of look up or look down, because on the treadmill, I'm looking down at my phone and then looking up at the iPad on the treadmill. And on my bike, I'm looking down at the iPad and then up at the TV. I can just look away for a couple of minutes, have the captions on, and just read to catch up. I just need something, and it's not to turn off my brain or anything, just that I can catch up on immediately or instantly. And I couldn't find anything because I'm watching very specific things. I'm watching Gen 5, or whatever the fuck it's called, on Prime Video. On Peacock, I had the latest episode of Law & Order SVU and Law & Order Vanilla, and I must pay attention to those. I have to find out who killed people. Usually they show you. But then, I go on to Disney Plus, and I'm, we know that they're going to fold Hulu into Disney Plus proper next spring. And as I'm scrolling through, you can already get Hulu stuff on Disney Plus. Not all of it, but you get a majority of it. So I'm already seeing things that are in my list on Hulu. I'm seeing things that I've shifted already from watching on Hulu to Disney Plus. And it was Halloween, or the day after Halloween, I guess. And so they still had the Halloween section up. And, I previously watched all of the Treehouse of Horror episodes from The Simpsons. And I do have issues with Disney Plus's. If you have something as big as The Simpsons, it should have its own button. There should be playlists. Peacock has playlists. Just do playlists. Anyway, whatever. Do hubs. You have The Simpsons. Do a Simpsons hub. That's all I'm saying. Do an adult animation hub. Whatever. But Disney Plus feels like Netflix, almost endless. And then you go to something like Paramount Plus, you go to something like Peacock, you go to something like HBO Max, and HBO Max feels all three of them feel incredibly light. I would say Paramount offers more than Peacock, and both of them offer more than HBO Max separately. So what I'm getting at after this long 10-minute spiel, what I'm getting at is your competition is going to be Netflix. Your competition is going to be Disney Plus. Disney Plus isn't even at its full strength yet, and yet you're still behind. So don't look at it, David Ellison. Don't look at Paramount Plus like we need to buy content and put content on here. We're going to be bulked up. Because if you don't have the platform and you don't have the people to make the good stuff, the good shows and the good movies and the good documentaries, and then also have a reason to keep people coming back, then you're not going to have the streaming platform you need or want. Paramount Plus offers, yes, live TV, and then like curated streaming channels, and then it also has Showtime and CBS mixed into one. But for Disney Plus, if you have the ESPN and then Hulu, and then on top of that, they also do So You Think You Can Dance or Dance with the Stars, one of those. They stream stuff live. They have live streaming channels. They have curated channels. They on Netflix, they have live sports. They have this. They have that. They have pretty much everything. They're gonna have video podcasts. And then at some point, you're going to have to consolidate again. So why do this and make investor and trick investors, and then eventually it's going to happen again, in a couple of years' time. Whatever, it doesn't matter. No one's listening to me. Listen, if you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me talk to famous people sometime. We have a couple of weeks of brand new conversations, so keep an eye out for that. On youtube.com/cpluscomedy, you can watch that under the interviews. You can also watch a video version of this show, as well as Late Night Lately, the Late Night Show, and the Constitutionals, which is the entertainment business news podcast, on youtube.com/cpluscomedy. Subscribe to those shows wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on social media, Blue Sky, TikTok, and Instagram @cpluscomedy. Me on those platforms @ChadBlackWhite. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.